Hey, what's up, guys? Blaine Duncan here from Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers, joined, as usual, by my brother, Austin. What is up, dude? How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. If you're watching the video, things are weird right now. My mic stand broke, so I feel like a reporter coming to you live from Halloween News.
Yeah, you look good just holding the mic like that. I think that should be a new thing for you.
I need a green screen and some weather behind me. But
yeah, there you go. There you go. Hey, man, we've got a really cool show tonight. This is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. We're going to be talking about Halloween Ends, and we have a very special guest that we're coming to you with tonight, bringing on the show. We're going to be talking with Michele Dawson, who played the character of Deb, or Nurse Deb, in Halloween Ends. And let's bring her on, man. Let's welcome her to the show. There she is, Michele Dawson. How you doing? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, you guys. This is awesome. I'm honored.
Yeah, well, the honor is ours. We're so stoked, and you know, obviously, you and I have been going back and forth here for a few weeks and planning this. And I was telling Austin off the air, like I'm really truly excited for this interview because I loved the character that you played in Halloween Ends. It was such a good character that brought so much to the movie. And we'll get into your character in just a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about your background. And was when you went into to cast for this movie and you went in to read for it, did you know that it was going to be a Halloween film?
No.
Okay. All right.
I had no idea. Like, they kept me completely in the dark. So originally how it worked out, I love telling this story. So, gosh, I guess it was November 2021. And I submitted myself through this acting submission site called Actors Access. And when I submitted, I was like, oh, the character breakdown that they had, I was like, this sounds fun. Sounds like me. She's a go-getter that'll, she'll do whatever she has to do, for her job. And I was like,
right.
Yeah, I'm proactive. I'm a little type A. I'm a determined gal. So I was like, I think I could try this. And I get the audition. After I submitted, I get the audition invitation. It happened to be the week of Thanksgiving that week. And it was sort of one of those, like, it always happens to me if it's Labor Day weekend, like whatever the holiday is going to be, like that's when like I get an audition. And so I'm always kind of like, okay, everybody else gets to go out and play, but I'm going to stay and work because this is what I want to do.
Sure.
So it was Thanksgiving week and I was like, all right, I'm put this on tape, get it done, have some fun with it. I had a blast putting myself on tape for this. So because of, COVID times, auditions were at home, self tapes. So I taped it home and I had a blast with the character. I actually used a couple of props just like I did in the actual movie. So I used like a little compact mirror and lipstick, and for the audition, the original audition scenes, it was just a little bit of sort of that club party scene, the like Halloween party club.
Right.
And then a little bit of me when you see myself and Andy, having that conversation in the doctor's office when we're in the patient room together. So those were like the two bits that I had to go off of for my audition. And I just had so much fun with it. I had a blast creating the character for the audition. So then 2 weeks later, I think it was about 2 weeks later, I got an invitation for the callback. And the callback was actually a live Zoom callback with casting director David Gordon Green, and I think there may have been one or two other people on there, but I was mostly focused on David because he was the one that was mostly talking to me.
Sure.
And I did the same two auditions I'd done for the original audition, and then he threw out at me. He was like, "Okay, so now we're gonna do a little improv." I was like, "Fun." So he was like, "Okay, can you pretend that, like your lover is coming home and you're expecting him to come home. You're waiting for him to come home. And instead it's somebody with a knife." And I was like, oh, okay. Because you may have guessed, but from the other bits of information that I had going into this, and Oh, this is the funny part. They had named the movie in the audition Cave Dweller. So I don't know if other people had been telling you this, like in interviews and whatnot, but it went under the title Cave Dweller. So I had no earthly idea what that meant. I was like, are
Right.
we sci-fi? Like, what is going
Right.
on? And then I found so much humor in Deb's lines that I was like, sci-fi comedy? What is this? I have no
Right.
idea. So when he then, when David gave me the direction in the improv to react as if someone has a knife and is now coming at me and I'm going to turn around and scream at them, I was like, oh, something different.
Sure. You started putting the pieces together and you started realizing what was happening.
I still had no idea what this was.
Really? Okay.
But
Yep.
I was like, okay, now we're shifting. Now we're horror. Okay, cool. I still had no idea it was part of Halloween, like
Sure.
legendary Halloween. I had no idea. It wasn't until literally after I booked it that I was going over. They didn't even send me the full script. I only had access to my sides. And not to give too much away, but originally the ending was supposed to be different. Okay. And so I'm looking and I'm seeing what the ending is, and it's when I see title credits, Halloween Ends. That was the moment in January that I then was like, is this what I think it is? And my agent and I had this little conversation of like, this is big. Do you know what this is? And I was like, I think so. Is it? Anyway, it was crazy. Yeah.
That's so cool. So then obviously you were excited. You knew that it was part of this huge franchise, lots of fans, people like Austin and I who are diehard fans for this topic. Had you seen any of the Halloween movies going, at that point? Were you a little bit, I mean, obviously you knew the name, but I mean, were you familiar with okay, you were. Okay.
I mean,
awesome.
Of course I knew the name, but like I hadn't watched all of them. Like, honestly, I hadn't even seen them. Like, of course they're legendary. Of course I'd heard of them, but like, so immediately I was like, okay. And David was like, hey, he started to give me connecting the dots for me. Like, okay, this is going to happen. This is going to be similar to this. So when you watch this movie, you'll see this. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Going back to obviously like my death scene and how that was similar to the boyfriend and the original Halloween and his death scene. Getting pushed up in the kitchen. And so it was little fun things like that he revealed to me. And then when I was watching the movies, I was like, okay. So yeah.
No, a lot of great parallels. And that's what I was going to say. And maybe you've been told this, maybe you haven't. I mean, no offense by this, but your death scene in Halloween Ends is my absolute favorite of the whole movie. Like, I thought it was so well done. I thought it was such a cool, just an awesome nod to obviously the original. But, before that, what did you bring to the character? I mean, how much did they allow you to, bring your own personal touches to it? Or was it pretty cut and dry with what they wanted that character of Deb to be?
Pretty much what I did in the audition is pretty much what ended up in the movie.
Okay, cool. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So, for me, I love creating characters, and I just read her as being a certain way. And honestly, for me as an actor, I love being able to tap in, like finding a hook into a character. And for me, the hook ended up being that compact and lipstick that I used. For me, that ended up being the hook, because when I'm just so focused on myself with that and having this conversation so flippantly, with Andy or Allison, I just, that's what kind of hooked in the character. And then from there, I just was kind of able to build on, this. Obviously, she's a bit of a narcissist,
right?
It's what Nurse Deb wants and needs is kind of the most important thing in life.
That's awesome.
And so, when I was able to kind of tap into that, just everything started to unravel and we started to play. And then on set, I'm sure you've heard this, David Gordon Green has a fantastic reputation of being such a collaborative director. And so to be on set with him is just a dream, because you get to play and then take sort of the things that I had developed with Nurse Deb and the characteristics that I already was bringing. And then he would kind of add on to that. And we just kept kind of adding and creating fun little magic moments. There was things, for example, when I'm opening up the box, the gift from Dr. Mathis, that wasn't even originally in there. And then they had the box for me, and David just gave me the idea. He's like, hey, why don't we like improvise? He's like, try this line. And the line that we tried, I said it one time, we did it in one take, and that's, he kept it in the movie. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it was fun things like that where, and then there was another little bit also in Dr. Mathis's house, while he's opening up the wine and I'm just entering the house. There was a couple of those lines that we started to play with when I'm like, this house is rich. That was another like improvised line, like in the moment that,
right.
There was something else I was saying that I think was similar. And David was like, ooh, let's try this. And then I did, and it stayed in the movie. So yeah,
That's
so
cool.
much fun being able to like play and just collaborate.
And I have to assume as an actor that is really important to you to be able to identify in many ways with your character and to really sink your teeth into it, because I suppose if you're just given a character to play and you're really not feeling it, it's got to be difficult, right? I mean, it's got to be much easier to identify with that character and have some personality of your own maybe that comes out in that character.
Well, for me, the funny thing is, I mean, sure, there's always something you can tap into, but it's funny because sometimes I have more fun and almost an easier job playing things that are a little different from me for some reason. But then when I'm able to find like a hook into them, like I said, like my hook was sort of the props I was using kind of like hooked me and helped create the character, then I can kind of, walk and talk a little differently, than I normally would. And that's just, I don't know, really fun for me.
Sure.
But obviously, the way it kind of goes is when they're casting you, they see something that you're doing that they feel like, ooh, okay, that's the character. We didn't even know what we wanted possibly before, but we like that. That's the character. And then as long as you're kind of malleable and able to play, and they feel like they can kind of help shape and guide what you're already bringing to the table, whatever kind of like essence you're already giving off. But I mean, I hope that I don't really think that I'm exactly like Nurse Deb, although I can relate to being a, determined
Sure.
type of goal-getting sort of person. But but I don't know. I enjoy playing characters that are also, kind of different from me.
Yeah, well, you did an awesome job. What did you feel like your relationship with obviously the character of Allison? It was a little bit of a different relationship. You didn't really know, are they really friends? Are they just work friends? There's sort of this weird vibe between them, maybe a little bit of jealousy on both sides, right? And what did you make of sort of that and interacting with Andy as she played the character of Allison?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're frenemies. I think that they're. I believe personally that Nurse Deb considers her to be a friend, but the way I kind of look at it is that Deb kind of gets in her own way, and I'm not sure that she knows how to be a good friend, but that she would consider Allison to be her friend. But I think she's also a little bit of a alpha female, and that she'll tread over you sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally if you just happen to accidentally be in the way of what she wants.
Right.
But I think that she would like to consider herself a good friend to Allison. I'm not sure that Allison would feel the same way.
Right.
But I definitely think that, there's a, it's a funny relationship between them, as so many women relationships can be complicated.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I think that Deb would consider her a friend, but maybe just doesn't really know how to be a good friend.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And what, so going now towards, we're into the movie, you're at Dr. Mathis's house and things are happening and you're getting ready for this night and it's obviously interrupted. You come out and he's getting attacked by Corey and you've got this kill scene. And like I said, it's my favorite kill out of the entire movie. I just think it was so cool. It's unfortunate that you had to do it, but maybe that's an awesome thing to hang your hat on, right? I don't know, but you did an awesome job, obviously selling that as well as just that surprise and that, here's this guy, he's here to kill you. And you did such a fantastic job with that, but talk about that scene. I mean, had you ever done anything like that before? And what was it like to, being on-screen death, really?
Right. All the makeup and prosthetics.
Yeah.
Well, no prosthetics for me. For me, I mean, I don't know if I should tell all the movie magic, but, but yeah, so that was me completely in that scene. Like I did the whole entire thing. All the little, stunt involved of the death scene. And I actually have died on camera before.
Oh, okay. All right. So this was nothing new.
I guess a little bit of a specialty of mine is getting stabbed to death.
Okay.
Oh, you've been stabbed to death before? Oh my
God.
Wow.
I've been stabbed to death before.
Awesome. Well, you've got that on the resume.
I know. I was in the trailer with Jamie Lee Curtis, and because we shot that scene over the course of 2 14-hour nights, and because it was literally overnight that we were shooting. And after the first day of that, she was in there. She's like, "I heard that went well yesterday," and I was like. And I mentioned to her, I was like, well, yes, I actually got stabbed to death on Criminal Minds.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Awesome.
And so
you're
like,
a pro.
Oh, wow. Like, yeah. Put that on
awesome.
my IMDb, known for
right. Exactly. Yeah.
To death.
That's funny.
So yeah. But this was a whole next level. I mean, the first time was a fantastic, fun experience in itself too. I don't know. For me, I guess I really enjoy the moments when I get to act and either do something like really dramatic, like getting stabbed to death, or really funny and comedy. Right. Like I live for those moments when I get to do those things. And so, yeah, I mean, how much more dramatic do we get than getting stabbed up against
stabbed
the
to
wall?
a wall? Right, by a masked maniac. Yeah.
Yeah, and man, I mean, honestly, like that night filming, like the actual getting pushed up against the wall. Well, no, the whole scene was a highlight for me. But yeah, that scene was this movie. But yes, that scene was a highlight in my acting career, like for sure. Everything about it was just fun. Like, the way that we had, stunt coordinators working with us, telling us exactly what to do with our bodies and the way that, James was holding my neck, and I was kind of doing like a chin up on his arm in order to like make it happen so that the motion of, me actually getting pushed up and levitating at, up to the wall worked out. And so just the fun choreography behind all of that. And, it felt real. I mean, anytime I saw him with that mask on, that mask is frightening.
Right.
It is so scary. I mean, like they even had our, the room that had our director's chairs to sit on when we weren't in front of the camera. They had props set up in there. And so his mask would sometimes be in and or like some other things they had in there. And oh my goodness, I just had to prepare myself. Like, remember, Michelle, every time you walk in this room, you're going to see that. Because they were just visually scary, which obviously made it quite easy to react to.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it. And so when you had that death scene, did it? I mean, is it as violent as it looks on film, or I mean, is it? I assume there are several cuts in there, and obviously you were lifted up on something, right? I mean, was there some sort of a lift, or how did they hold you to the wall?
Oh, can I say?
You gotta give us a little bit of inside secret here.
Well, the actually being lifted portion, yeah, I think that was sheer strength between.
Oh, it was awesome. Good for
the
you.
two of us. So
Awesome.
I was a gymnast growing up for 10 years. And my body has a whole lot of muscle memory. And then for the last 4 years, I've been training partnered acrobatics.
Cool.
So I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's very similar to like Circus Soleil.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of upper body strength, which came in handy for this. And then, yeah, so all of that was us. And then we had the assistants to keep me on the wall. There was a little assistance to make that happen.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Hey, that's all right. You don't have to give out all the secrets. That's fine. But that is interesting to know that your background, I mean, prepared you in a way for that scene, you know?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of it played into things, but I'm aware that, some of the crew had seen my videos on Instagram. They see me flipping around and doing handstands on people. And so, yeah, they had seen my Instagram beforehand, so they knew what I was capable of. I mean, there was a stunt person there, like, just in case, but I ended up doing everything myself, and it was a blast. It really was. Yeah. Cool. I mean, like, anytime I can combine my physical athleticism with, the acting and the drama and the playing a character is like a dream come true for me.
So it's
cool. Totally a dream. Blaine and I have talked many times how it would be a dream to get killed by Michael Myers on screen. So congrats to you for that.
I mean, I can't tell you how like honored I am to be like Michael Myers' last kill,
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, that's so true. And it was a great, death scene. And like I said, I mean, I remember watching it in the theater, and Austin and I saw it together, and it was just like that. Now that was a cool death scene for your character. So we love the character. We love the character, your character, and obviously you brought so much to that role. And I've seen the Instagram videos, and I'm super impressed with the flipping and that's just something I would never have the talent to be able to do. So that's just super cool. But what's next for you? I mean, what do you have planned? What's on the docket?
Yeah. Well, I have a project. I mean, I really don't want to say too much about it right now because, I hate to like count my eggs before they hatch. But there's something in the works that I'm hoping we'll start shooting fall this year, a series that I'm attached to. So hopefully that will work out because that will be another fun, exciting, very dramatic sort of series. It'll be fun.
Good for you. Well, that's awesome. Well, we are going to certainly be excited to watch your career continue on. And we're big fans, and not only of your role that you played in this film, but obviously we're going to keep watching you as you go forward. So best of luck to you. Nice. And thank you so much for coming on the show. We seriously appreciate it so much. It's been a pleasure. And like I said, we'll keep watching up, and I know we're going to see you again.
Thanks, guys. Like, seriously, it was such an honor to be invited and be here with you guys today. I feel like I could stay and hang out. So
awesome. Well, that's very
like anytime. And
absolutely.
Stay away from knives.
Yeah. No more knife deaths. Like, expand it out a little bit, but no more knives.
I've started to wonder, like, could I make this a thing? Like, how many things can I get stabbed in?
Right. Exactly. It's kind of a competition at this point.
Yeah. Put it in a rom-com. Make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, if I get enough of them, maybe I could do some sort of Guinness World sort of situation, like stabbed to death on screen so many times.
The world is your oyster.
Yeah, you're on to something there. No, that's awesome. Well, Michele, thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure. We'll keep in touch, and maybe we'll get you back on the show again in another episode.
Sounds great. I'd love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care. Michele Dawson, everyone. Thank you. Awesome.
So cool.
That was yeah, she's such a sweet person. I mean, obviously, getting to talk to these people and having the opportunity to hear some of the behind the scenes, things that are happening and the way that these characters are created. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I mean, I'm sure you feel the exact same way, that it's like there is obviously a lot that goes into these roles, and these actors put so much of themselves into these roles, and it's just fun to talk to these people and get to hear what things are like behind the scenes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And like, again, this has kind of happened the last few people we've had that have been in the movies. But now every time I watch Ends, which, I'm going to do every year for the rest of my life, I'm going to be like, yeah, we talked to Michele Dawson. Like,
right.
It's just a wild thing that we've done in the last couple months here.
Yeah, no, it's so cool, and yeah, very grateful to Michele for taking the time out of her day and to do that, and I'm excited to see what she does, because she's a great actress, and she like I said, I loved her character, and she did so much with that, and I mean, when I think about like the death scenes throughout the whole entire franchise, like that's going to be one that's right up there for the best for me, because it was that homage to obviously Bob's death in 78, and you loved, and kind of because Allison is sort of that girl next door, like everybody just feels for Allison and loves Allison. You kind of, in a way, you almost love to hate the character of Deb as well, or I don't, maybe I'm not saying that right, but you were sort of like you almost wanted something to happen to her in a way, because Allison is this wholesome, you're very protective of her in a way, and you've seen her throughout the series, or at least the David and Gordon Green trilogy. And so Deb brought this character that was a little bit of a threat to her, and you wanted to root for Allison, but Deb was getting the promotion, and it's just it was such a great role, and yeah, super cool to talk to Michele. She's a sweetheart, and thank you to her for coming on the program, because that was super cool.
Totally. One of those character. I mean, when I think about her character in that movie, it's kind of a mixed bag, because she's not like an annoying or like very easy to hate, but you're like, God, she's just kind of a thorn in
right.
Alice's side.
Right.
But
and that's and that's what I mean. Like, I think you're rooting so much for Allison that Deb, the character of Nurse Deb, she's like a kind of a speed bump in Allison's, that's in Allison's way. And, you just see what she's doing and how she's manipulating this doctor kind of, and she's using herself to advance her career, and Allison's not doing that. So you're kind of like, this girl's got to go, this girl's got to go. But yeah, it's just a great character, and one that will definitely be remembered as this franchise hopefully continues. But speaking of Ends, just in the last 24 hours, there was actually Us Weekly actually did an article, and it's gotten a little bit of steam, gotten a little bit of some legs underneath of it, and it's run around the internet. But they interviewed Danny McBride and about the Halloween Ends movie, and they just asked him kind of about the the polarizing nature of Halloween Ends, and how so many people love it, so many people hate it, and it's really, as you and I talked about, we weren't even filming the other day, but we were talking about this, and we said, man, Halloween Ends, you either love it or you hate it. There's really nothing in the middle. There's nobody out there that's just sort of like, it's okay. Like, people either love it or they hate it. At least that's from what I've found out. But they asked Danny McBride about this, and I'm just going to read to you what his quote is. And a lot of the people listening or watching may have already heard this, but I'm going to just read it because I think it's very interesting what he said. So they asked Danny McBride, just about that polarizing nature of the film. And this is what he said. He said, I think that it's a valid criticism. All three of these movies were David Gordon Green's sort of brainchild. He had a very distinct idea of what he wanted to do with this. And I just felt lucky that he brought me along for the ride to help him where I could, and to try to give him anything I could on it. And when he told me his pitch for focusing on this Corey character, I thought that it was cool. I thought it was a smart take on it. I thought that it was a way to avoid repetition and sort of explore something a little different that is, and still tying it into what is Halloween's ultimately about. I mumbled through a little bit of that, but you get what I was saying. I mean, he's being very honest about it. Like he knows, he's accepting that there were a lot of criticism, or that there still is a lot of criticism about the film. But I think he's being pretty honest about it, that he didn't want repetition. He didn't want there to be the same movie over and over again. Speaking on David Gordon Green's behalf.
I think, kind of a criticism you hear about the horror genre. You see a trailer for a sequel to a horror movie, and you're almost guaranteed to hear somebody go, "They're doing another one of these." And I think it sounds like the team that was developing these movies, Blumhouse or whatever, they didn't want that. They didn't want to give you, I guess, what you're expecting in a way. And they wanted to give 3 unique films in this franchise. I think they totally did. And obviously we're in the sort of the half that loves Halloween Ends.
Right.
But yeah, it is nice to kind of hear, somebody involved with something they spent a lot of time on, kind of this labor of love, with kind of a critical lens, or at least understanding of some of the criticisms that the movie has gotten.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a super interesting interview. And it doesn't sound like he's necessarily agreeing with the criticism. He's more just saying, I get where you're coming from, but this is what we were trying to do.
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of, something that you and I have talked about a lot. We've talked about it on the show. But there was, I understand the people who don't like it. I understand the reasons behind why people don't like it, but I just look at it as what, sort of like what Danny McBride said, what the vision was for it, right? And I think you could say that for any of the films. I mean, going all the way back to John Carpenter's. I mean, there are people who do not like Halloween 1978, and there's not a lot of them, but there are some people that don't like it, and I think you have to take into account what the direction and the vision was that director had. And he knew, talking about David Gordon Green, he knew that he had to wrap this franchise up. He had to, seal it with a bow, and he had to deliver this out to the world. We also knew that we were met with this huge obstacle of, you have these 2 figures. You have Laurie and you have Michael. And they had already said before the movie came out, only one of them is going to survive. Only one of them is going to make it to the end of this film. So you had this speculation. You had the who's it going to be? Is it going to be Michael? Is it going to be Laurie? There's no way they can kill Michael. Well, there's no way they can kill Laurie, right? I mean, so there was all this back and forth in this buildup. And, something that we've talked about is you knew a lot about the details about what was going to happen. You knew that this Corey Cunningham character was going to take over Michael's role for a good portion of the film. And you knew a lot of those details. I didn't. So you and I didn't want to read about them. I think I watched the trailer once because I was excited to see it, but I didn't want to see anything more. I didn't even really want to remember the trailer when I went in and saw the film. So you and I went into that movie with 2 very, very different perspectives of how we were interpreting what we were seeing. You knew what was happening in some capacity, right? You may not have known scene by scene. Okay, well, so there you go. Yeah, so you knew what was happening, what was going to happen, where I was coming at it totally blind, and I was going into it with just a fresh mind and sort of an open slate and not knowing what it was. And dude, we both walked out of that movie with the exact same mindset that it's a freaking great movie. And I'm not knocking or disrespecting anybody who doesn't like it, because again, I certainly understand your perspective and why, but I love it. And I'll go down fighting and swinging that this is a great movie.
Yeah. And just while you were talking, I was kind of thinking about the position that they put themselves in, kind of like what you're saying, where, yeah, they had this 2 iconic characters and only one was walking out of the ring alive. I think they almost put themselves in a position where they were never going to, well, obviously you're not going to please everybody, but they kind of put themselves in this position where whatever they do is going to be extremely divisive and polarizing. And I think it's kind of choosing your battles there. I think this movie was kind of destined. Anytime you're ending a franchise, you're sort of destined for some some of those feelings. I mean, think about Godfather 3, you don't care for it, but Return of the Jedi, all of these huge franchises that come to an end, there's almost always kind of a 50-50 split on it. And yeah, I think they kind of put themselves in a unwinnable position.
They did. And so what we talked about, what we're going to do for the remainder of this episode, or for a portion of the remainder of this episode, we came up with a list of 5 reasons why people don't like Halloween Ends. We're going to dissect them a little bit, talk about them, maybe defend our position, but also acknowledge why some people might feel this way. But we do have this list of 5 reasons. Might not be the only 5 reasons, but it's the 5 reasons that we came up with for why people don't like Halloween Ends. The first one is that there's not enough Michael. Okay. And that seems to be a really big one, that people felt like Michael Myers was not in the film a lot. I got to be honest with you. I understand and I agree that I'm all for give me more Mike, right? I mean, I get that. But I think the way that they did it, and obviously having the Corey Cunningham character, I felt like Michael was there a lot more than he really was. It didn't hit me the way that it hit other people, like, holy shit, Michael was only, he was only in it for 8.5 minutes. I mean, people like legit timed it out how much he was on the screen. It didn't hit me like that because I think the character of Corey Cunningham felt to me like Michael Myers was on the screen. And obviously we saw the DJ's death and we saw some other things, some other deaths, the Dr. Mathis death that we were just talking about with Michelle. Those deaths were, caused by Corey. So I think I felt a little bit like whether he was in costume or not, maybe I was seeing Michael. But what did you think about that? I mean, obviously I'm sure you saw Michael on screen more, but what was your ultimate feeling on that?
So one of the things that people will come up with to be the rebuttal to that argument is, well, he's actually in it more than he was in 1978. But we're talking about a movie that's a very different length in time. If you want to talk about percentage, Michael is in it a much smaller percentage of the film than the original Halloween. I'm sort of in that boat. I like the way that they did it, though, because they did almost they definitely flirted with something that I wouldn't have been okay with, which is just Corey's the next Michael, and we're moving on with Corey. Michael's dead. They kind of wanted you to feel that way throughout that movie, sort of this like, that's not Michael feeling throughout the film. And but to that extent, I completely agree. When you're seeing Corey, I mean, the whole DJ death scene, if you would tell somebody that was Michael Myers who hadn't seen the rest of the film, even us who had been watching the previous 2 films like crazy, I would have believed you. I mean, he's wearing rings, right, and his hand isn't the right way or whatever, but it feels very Michael Myers. I think it's a completely valid argument to be Danny McBride in this situation, that Michael isn't in the movie. And if you love Michael being in the movie, Halloween Kills, man, is the movie for you. And I think maybe that was gearing us up or preparing the viewer for what this movie would be. But I think it is kind of important to the story, as weird as it sounds, that Michael kind of plays a back part to it. And then that final showdown, it's like, oh yeah, no, this is the one and only shape.
I think that's a great point. You actually, what you mentioned about, Kills is your movie if you're really looking for a lot of Michael. And maybe that was their idea. Maybe, hey, we're going to overload you with Michael, where Michael's going to be on the screen probably more than he ever was for any of the other movies. And then we're going to pull him back in Halloween Ends because you got so much of him in Kills. Just a theory, but that's not a bad one that you just came up with. The second one that we're going to talk about is the second complaint about Halloween Ends is that it's a love story between Corey and Allison, and that it's too much of a love story for a horror film. Thoughts?
I mean, it's not a. Here's what I'll say. There's one scene where I'm like, oh yeah, I totally agree. I think the idea is that they were talking off screen, but there's a shot where Corey stops on their walk and he goes, I killed somebody yesterday, or something along those lines. And Allison's like, you're trying to figure out what her emotion is. And then they like keep falling in love and they're like, let's burn this town down together. I think it's like, I guess you could say there's too much of it, but I think it gave us, in my opinion, something we haven't talked about yet. Halloween Ends has my favorite Allison out of the trilogy by far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Corey really gave us the ability to explore Allison's character through kind of an outside perspective, which is what I still feel like we have 3 movies into a trilogy.
I agree with you 100%. And I think, I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie, quite honestly, because it actually reminds me, it's very like, for those of you familiar with the movie Drive, it's very like Drive-esque, where it's just kind of like you get these neon colors and you've got this sort of dark wave music that's playing, but you've got the Burn It Down song that was in this movie, which I'm a huge fan of that song. I love that song. And they're riding their motorcycle. And you do for a minute forget that you're watching a Halloween film, because there is certainly that storyline that's happening, that's going on, and we've never gotten that really in any of the other films. But again, I didn't hate it. Like I didn't think it was too much. I didn't think it was over the top. And I think I've said this before, that throughout the trilogy, you find yourself, or at least I do, like in a way falling in love with the character of Allison, because you see what she's gone through. She starts out, she's a sweet, sort of naive high school girl. And then by the time you get to Ends, she's been through a lot. She's cut her hair. She's, changed her lifestyle. She's dating, she's got this douchebag boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, cop dude. Right. And then she's going after the Corey character, and she's very forward. Like she's very forward with Corey in some of the innuendos that she throws out there for him. I didn't hate it. Like I thought they did just enough. It's like, here's the thing. I look at it as like they're trying to bake a cake. You need some flour, you need some sugar, you need the eggs, you need all these different ingredients, and they sprinkled just enough of that in to make that cake, in my mind, to make that a good cake. I think if you would have done too much of it, yeah, I could certainly understand that. And I'm not taking away from anybody who thinks that, but I don't see it as being like a negative to the movie. I thought it brought out a lot more emotion in those characters.
I completely agree. I think if you don't have as much stake in their relationship, the eventual like, oh shit, Corey, what are you doing? Like he takes this idea that we're like, oh yeah, I get why you hate this town, and he takes it too far, and you can kind of see the 2 different ways that idea can go. I think it's a necessary part to make those 2 characters work in this movie. And to your point about Allison, how she's changed her vibe, it's very Jamie Lee Curtis. Like she feels like a young Laurie Strode, maybe not the one that we got in 78, but a younger version of like the Halloween 18, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends Laurie. She's got that kind of quippy, fast remark thing that Laurie has a lot of, especially in Ends.
Yeah, no, I don't have any complaints about it. I really don't. The third one that we're going to bring up is that Corey kicks Michael's ass in the sewer and he steals his mask. If I'm gonna pick one out of this list, this is probably going to be the one that I'm going to give the most credence to, or credibility to, because I don't necessarily mind that Corey ultimately gets Michael's mask. I don't like how little of a fight Michael puts up. And at first, when Corey gets in and he's like, he starts fighting him, and Michael, grabs him and slams him to the ground. And then Corey gets up and slams Michael to the ground. And, at some point he says, I need your mask, or I need that mask. And then he rips it off. And then, you see Michael sit up as Corey crawls out of the sewer. Seeing it originally, I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. This is very interesting that Corey is, and at that point I started putting the pieces together. Like, okay, this dude, he's cut his hand now. He's got the the blue coveralls. You could just see what was transpiring. Now he's got the mask. Okay, Corey's going to start killing people. He's lost it. He is now going to be Michael Myers. What I didn't expect was that they were going to obviously have this clash at the end, and Corey would end up dying, and Michael would stomp on him and all that shit, right? But if I'm gonna give any like credibility to some of these arguments, this is one that I wish maybe that fight would have been longer. I wish Corey would have brought a weapon with him and shot Michael. I mean, I don't even know, but I wish Michael wouldn't have just got bitched out so easy and got beat up, thrown to the ground, and his mask ripped off. I mean, that I didn't like.
I get it. I get it. I see this one isn't as big of a deal for me because of he got his ass kicked at the end of Kills. He's been a cave dweller for the last few years. I get that he's weak, but I will say this. Michael has been bested in combat in the movies before in much better ways. So I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, can you give him a weapon where it makes it, he gets a good whack on the back of Michael's head and it kind of makes sense. He passes out. That's how he gets the mask. I would have liked that more for sure. But this isn't one that I'm like, how could anybody beat this, 60 something year old man who hasn't eaten anything but rats and got his ass kicked? Like, on paper, it makes sense, but I get it. He's the shape. And it's my problem with that argument too, is like, he becomes the Michael we all know by the end of the movie. Like he's back to being the kills Michael Myers.
Right.
Outside
which we see with Michelle's death. I mean, that's really that's when you're like, holy shit, he's back. Michael is back because obviously Corey takes out Dr. Mathis and he goes after Michelle, stabs her to the wall like Bob. That's, to your point, that's when he's back.
And you can't argue that that's not full strength Michael Myers, because that is exactly what he does at, whatever he is, 22, 21 in Halloween 1978.
Right. No, I agree. So number 4, very similarly, and kind of is piggybacks off of Corey kicking Michael's ass and taking his mask, is that Corey becomes this shape. And there's I don't want to say good portion, but there is a fairly large portion of the film where Corey and the DJ scene is really the highlight of that, where Corey, I guess the junkyard scene and then the DJ scene, Corey is Michael Myers. Again, I don't hate it because that was what they were doing. That's the whole build up to that, was him kicking Michael's ass, taking the mask. Now Corey is Michael Myers. He has taken on the persona of the shape, and he's going to wreak havoc on not only the bullies, but also this DJ. And one of the things that we talked about with the DJ's death that I don't know that it was intended to, but the DJ was a smart mouth. He was kind of bad mouthing a lot of people, and he was just an overall asshole to Corey and Allison's characters at one point in the film. But he ends up getting his tongue cut off. And I look at that as like, was that meant to sort of show like that he was being silenced? I mean, clearly he was going to die. His jaw was busted off his face and he'd gotten his head pounded in. But, when he gets his tongue cut off, was that like to show that he was silenced? But I loved I thought the junkyard death scene was great. The music in that scene, and I think it's called The Junkyard or something like that. When Corey drops the big plumber's pipe down to his side and walks towards that one girl, dude, I loved it. Like, that looked like Michael Myers. Same with the DJ scene when DJ, I think it's DJ Willie, Willie the Kid. Willie the Kid. Willie's on the air and you see Corey walk by the window and it looks like James G. Courtney. Maybe it was, I don't know, but it looks like the shape walking past that window. I didn't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't know what to say.
No, I completely agree with you. I think what I talked about earlier, where you're like, if they would have kept going down that route further than they did in that movie, I think I would have a bigger problem with it. But there is a very clear, like, nah, this dude is not the shape moment in the movie. And that's when Corey gets his ass handed to him and gets his face choked up by Michael. So there is sort of this like, oh shit, is he going to be the guy? And then it's immediately cut off. And,
yeah, you're talking like when Corey first goes into the sewer.
No, when Corey's death scene.
Oh, after he's been shot.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, no, this is the real deal Michael Myers here.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It kind of shuts down any of that talk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm not a huge hater. I think if they would have ended the movie when Corey was still wearing the mask, I'd have a different opinion. But that's not the way it went.
I agree. I think I do think about that. Like, what if Michael had still died and Corey had lived? And one of the things that I read, who knows if it's true, was that was on the table at one point, that Corey was going to survive and Michael was still going to die. I don't know how I would feel about that, because it's like, okay, are we really, is this like the next movie? Is it really going to have Corey? I don't know how. At the end of the day, I do want Michael Myers to be the Shape, not Corey to be the Shape. Even though I loved that character and I loved what what Corey brought to that movie, I want it to be Michael Myers. I mean, if we can't have Michael, if I can't have you, I don't want nobody, baby. Like that's what I'm thinking here, is like, if I can't have Michael Myers, I don't want anybody. So, and that actually, so that brings us to point number 5, and that is that they kill Michael Myers. I don't like it, but I don't necessarily. I knew that something was going to happen, right? Either Jamie was going to die or Michael was going to die. We already talked about that. I wasn't going to be happy with either one of them dying. Personally, for me, I would have liked to have seen Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode. I'd like to see her character. I would have preferred to see her character get killed off, because Michael is just this. You can't beat him. He's this endless, almost lifeless character that you can't beat him. And they obviously proved that they could, because he gets thrown into the freaking grinder and he's dog food, so a little bit of heartburn for me. I don't love it, don't hate it. I'm just sort of in the middle on it. But how do you feel about this one?
So here's where it really sucked that I read all the spoilers ahead. I saw just like the blip, like Michael gets put in trash compactor and dies. And I was like, well, that's very anticlimactic. But the way that they do, like the Haddonfield carrying him,
the procession.
Yeah, I think it was really cool. And sort of the overarching theme in this trilogy is that Haddonfield is almost cursed by Michael Myers, who's this larger than life thing. It infects Corey. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the pinnacle of how bad it can get. And then at the end, like you see, like it's this triumph of Haddonfield. They've beaten this curse. He was in fact just a man. And I know people have problems with just that sentence alone, that Michael Myers is a man, but that is sort of what gives Michael the mystique, is like, he is a man, but how is he just the Shape? Right. No, I'm cool with Michael dying. I think it was a necessary part of the script. I would have preferred Michael and Laurie going out at the same time somehow.
Sure. Well, and like we said, even though we're saying, hey, we don't mind that Michael get killed off. I mean, Michael gets killed off in every movie. And we've talked about it before. He is Dracula. He is James Bond. He is Batman. We believe that he will be reinvented, reincarnated in some way, shape, or form. So just because we're saying, hey, that's awesome that they killed him off. No, they killed him off for this trilogy. Like, we're not saying, oh, we're glad there's never going to be a Michael Myers movie. I mean, Christ, our podcast is Halloween Lives. So we're not saying that at all, but we understand why they had to do it, obviously to wrap up this franchise. So yeah, that's the list. We would love to hear from you guys, what you guys think. Why do you love Halloween Ends? Why do you hate it? No right or wrong answers. If you hate it, cool, good for you. It's your choice. If you love it, awesome. We agree, because it's a great film in our opinion. But that wraps up Halloween Ends, the Halloween Ends discussion. I know, Austin, we're going to continue on with this fan of the week, and I want you to give us the rundown on who you have. I don't know who this is. Usually I have somewhat of an idea. I know nothing about this one, so I'm excited to see it.
I haven't even been able to test throwing it up on the screen here, because you've been here, and I kind of want to just see your reaction, because I think this is so badass, dude. This might be a thing that the fandom knows about that I am just figuring out about, but this is a custom mask. I'm not sure if it's custom sculpt, how it goes, but this is the WMP Chris Morgan H3 concept mask. And the idea is Michael is obviously exploded at the end of H2 in the hospital. And if they were to have continued, rather than going the Season of the Witch route with Michael and kept the hero that they kept from H78 and used in H2, this is, I think, what he would look like. And dude, I don't hate it at all. I don't think it doesn't fit. I think it fits perfectly. I love the way this mask looks. I think it's perfectly aged. I think it's probably realistic to what they would make him look like in, let's say they made a sequel in 1983. I think this is what we would have gotten. And I love like kind of the bald Michael Myers. Dude, I just love this mask. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it looks like something that is very it's very nightmarish. I mean, the hair is a little bit it's like, did it fall out? Did it burn out? What's the deal? I think it's cool. I think it's super cool. I mean, it's funny because I actually did see this earlier on Facebook, and I was looking at it because I thought it was cool. It caught my attention right away. I think my favorite thing about this mask is the blood trickle that is still evident on the mask. That is cool, because if you would think about that, like, that is something that would harden, might stain the mask, and it wouldn't really go away. So I love that they kept that in there, even though I don't like that part of the movie. I think it's very fake. I mean, Michael's taken 2 rounds to the head and he's cool with it and his eyes are bleeding. I don't like that part of it, but I do like that, Matthew incorporated it into his mask. And yeah, dude, that's a badass mask. I think it's creepy. I would not want to see that standing in my house at night. That would be pretty frightening.
So at the time of recording this is available for sale on Facebook right now. I've got Matthew Reed up there. So go check that out. I believe he's selling it for around $400, which I think is a totally fair price for a piece like this. Kind of one of a kind, man. It's really sweet. It's got H2 vibes, but just gnarly and dirty, man. And I dig it. I do love that he called it the H3 concept mask. I think that's cool, And it's by Chris Morgan, who is sort of a big name in the rehauling community and has always done amazing work. So yeah,
that's
incredible stuff.
That's awesome. That is super cool. No, I think that's very, very cool. And I'm sure somebody will buy it. I'm sure somebody will. Oh, by the way, if you watched my last episode, I did sell my mask. So thank you to the buyer of that. It's an awesome mask. You're going to love it. But yeah, that really does it, man. That kind of wraps up this episode. It was a fun one. Michele Dawson, what a sweetheart. Super cool. And hopefully we can get her, back on the show again sometime. We were being respectful of her time and didn't want to take up too much of it. So hopefully we can get her back on the show sometime, maybe get some fan questions in there for her. But yeah, man,
she's making it in the, the acting world. So, just the fact that we got 25 minutes with her was awesome.
Right. For sure. No, she's super cool. And again, Michele, if you're watching this, thank you so much for coming on the show. That wraps up this episode. We've got some really fun stuff coming up. We are going to do, I'm debating whether or not I want to share what we're about to do, or we're going to do in a few weeks. What do you think? Should we give the people at home something to look forward to? Because I think it's going to be pretty freaking sweet.
I say go for it, because I'm anticipating it. So I want to feel, other people feel the pain that I have to wait for this as well.
Well, so Austin and I are big football fans. We love the NFL, go Minnesota Vikings. And we are going to be, we've got the NFL draft is going to be coming up here in another month, a little less than a month. So it's a big deal for those of you who are sports fans and who enjoy watching football at home. So what we are going to do is, I don't know that we're going to call it this necessarily, but is going to be a Halloween draft where Austin and I are going to draft characters for a sort of an ultimate film and who we would want to star. We're going to have to go back and forth, make our selections. Who knows? Maybe we could even throw some trades in there if something is appealing. We can incorporate some of those things, and we've got a lot of super cool ideas. Hopefully, you guys think it's as cool of an idea as we do, because we're really excited for it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're already bouncing ideas off each other. We're going to add a few different elements to the program that we've not seen yet. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and that'll be coming up right around draft time. So, late April, mid to late April, so a few weeks yet. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and that really does it, though. That's this episode. Michele Dawson, Halloween Ends, super cool chick, and we're very thankful that she came on the program, and we're on to the next one, man. Keep it going.
Yeah. If you like what you saw here today, and you want to see more, check out our channel on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Instagram. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I know you hear that all the time, but it's huge for us right now. We're very much trying to work our way up the ranks here. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for watching. This has been episode 12. Episode 12.
On episode 12. Look at us go, man.
Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.